Welcome to this LEX 18 Digital Conversation. I'm Dia Davidson. You know, we're down to the final days of Audiology Awareness Month. So today, we're talking about maintaining proper hearing for a better life. We want to welcome Dr. Deanna Frazier of Bluegrass Audiology with more. Welcome. Hi. Hey. Okay, so Audiology Awareness. Talk to me. What's that all about?
That's right. So every October we celebrate Audiology Awareness Month, and the whole goal is just to get the word out about how important hearing is. You know, a lot of people take part in preventive care. They'll get eyes checked and have your annual checkups, but a lot of times the hearing piece is missing from that. So we're just here to create that awareness piece, and then you know, just to let you know that it is something that is across the ages. It's not just for the elderly. Some of the stats are that there's over 37 million Americans with hearing loss, and 1 in 8 of those are over the age of 12. So it's not just in the elderly, and half of those are actually younger than the age of 65. So it is something.
Is it hereditary? Is it something organic that's going on? What's causing it?
It can be a little bit of everything. There's definitely a link that hearing loss can run in families, so there's a genetic component there. There is also, you know, ear infections, if left untreated, can turn into permanent type of hearing loss. Noise is all around us, and so you always have to be careful with noise. So some of those are the most common links with hearing loss.
Well, let's talk a little bit about infections. A lot of children do suffer with ear infections and having to have tubes placed in their ears and things like that. Is this something that, if that happens on a recurring sort of basis, do we need to monitor, watch? What's going on?
Right. So thankfully, ear infections are a lot more common in children than in adults, and that's due to the angle of the eustachian tube. So as we age, that is more readily able to drain that middle ear space, which prevents the prevalence of hearing loss and ear infections after a certain age. But it depends on the prevalence and the amount of ear infections. With repeated ear infections, sometimes it can lead to ruptures on the eardrum. There can be some erosion to the bones. There can be some scar tissue that accumulates. So thankfully, medicine is advanced to the point where they can use different types of tubes. And so, but it's a good idea just to monitor that, because sometimes it can be one ear and not both, and those are a little harder to catch than if it were something to occur in both ears.
So what are some of the kind of the key things that we need to look for if someone is having hearing loss or issue?
So some of the signs and symptoms are, you know, having to ask people to repeat, misunderstanding, withdrawing. Sometimes people don't want to put themselves out there, so if they are afraid that they don't understand the question or what's being asked, they'll either withdraw or they may do the opposite. They may dominate the conversation so that they're in the driver's seat, and so they don't have to worry about listening to those details.
So now let's talk a little bit about testing. You still go into the soundproof room and you listen to the different tones?
Absolutely. And we use different methods for different age groups. Sometimes with children we have to make a game out of it, and we use lights and sounds and speakers and things like that, which gets their attention and lets them stay engaged in the process. As we age, then we like to use earphones, and we do test each ear independently. We use tones, and then we also use speech, because that is usually the people that come to see me is because they're misunderstanding conversation. It's not that they're not hearing a buzzer or a doorbell or something like that. And we even have tests that we routinely do at our clinic where we can test you in the presence of background noise, because that's our number one complaint is, you know, if it's quiet and there's no competing noise, then they're able to stay on topic. But if there's competing noise, then people, it's the classic, I hear but I don't understand. And so we have ways to evaluate that as well.
Let's talk a little bit about as we age, because, you know, we can still be vain as we age, and we may not want to wear some of the bulky units that, you know, we traditionally think of when we think of hearing devices. What's kind of out there for people so that you can hear, but you don't have to be, you know, stigmatized or feeling like you've got something that's this big red flag?
Right, and that's something that we've been really excited about, because this technology has advanced. The components have gotten a lot smaller. It's all about real estate, and so they're able to put those things into a smaller package. We have rechargeable hearing aids now that sometimes changing the battery, if someone has dexterity issues, that was a concern, so now we have rechargeables. A lot of the technology also has Bluetooth technology built into it, so we can pair that device to a TV, we can pair it to a cell phone, to an iPad, so it allows for streamless transfer.
What's the life on some of these things?
So typically the standard life is around 4 to 6 years old, and not that some devices won't last longer than that, but it's really being driven by changes in technology. Just like when people move from an iPhone 6 to an 8
or from a flip phone to an iPhone, right?
Right. That's right. It's not that your device isn't functioning anymore, it's just that this new device might do some things or have some features that would benefit you if you were to upgrade.
And I guess it's also the way in which you maintain them too.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. People produce wax and sweat, and have oily skin or dry skin. So a lot of weight gain and weight loss, all those things affects how it fits in or on the ear, and so those things come to. I guess it is a mold
to your body, isn't it?
That's right. Some are molded to go in the ear, and some sit on top of the ear. So it's just whatever is preferable for the patient, and then we always take into consideration the amount of hearing loss because that dictates the model as well.
Sure. And there are other benefits to improving hearing other than just being able to hear, right?
Absolutely. People tend to isolate the ears, but they're connected to our body, and hearing loss is the third most chronic health condition behind heart disease and diabetes, and there's a strong link between comorbidities between other conditions and the prevalence of hearing loss.
So. Even dementia and Alzheimer's, right?
Right, and there's recent studies that show that there is a greater risk of developing dementia in the group that has untreated hearing loss, and there's a greater incidence of isolation and depression. And again, it goes back to that, living well, like you said at the first. We want people to be out and active and participating with their family and going to activities. And someone that is experiencing hearing loss, they might not feel as safe or secure or being able to participate as fully as they would like. So they tend to withdraw from certain situations or may not go out as much as they normally would because they just don't want to put themselves in that situation.
And it can be kind of cost prohibitive because it's not something that's covered necessarily by insurance,
That's right. There are some insurance plans that do have a benefit, and so for example, at our clinic, if there is a benefit, we will, bill that on the person's behalf. But it is definitely an investment. We have payment plans and that type of thing.
But it's an investment in your quality of life, isn't
Absolutely, it? Absolutely. And we always offer a trial period because we do want people to be able to, have the opportunity to wear it in the situations that are most important to them. And if it's unsuccessful, then we offer a refund.
So a test drive, right?
That's right. So, so try before you buy.
Exactly, because it is, like you said, a total investment.
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the other models that you have. Do you still use the traditional box? Or, we've been talking a lot about the little, inserts, but do you use that? And when do you use the bigger box?
Right, so the degree of hearing loss is one thing to consider. The cosmetics of the person. Some people...
But a lot of people have active lifestyles, so are there ways to kind of sort of marry the two together?
In some features, yes. It kind of depends on what's important to the person. And so when someone comes in, we go through a lifestyle assessment to kind of get a better idea of exactly what that person's lifestyle is, how active they are, what features are most important to them. And so previously when I mentioned some of the Bluetooth features, there's an antenna that performs that function, and so we have to have a little bit of space for that. So not all styles have all the same features, and so that's something that we go through on an individual basis when someone comes in. Absolutely.
So then I guess it's the maintenance, I guess would be the next question. How often do you have to come back and be retested? Do you have to be retested to get an upgrade into your hearing device, or what do you do with that?
So for good hearing health care, it's recommended that you have an annual exam, and like I mentioned previously, if hearing loss does run in your family, then I would encourage you to, to stay on that yearly track to children and that type of thing. If we get successive tests that aren't showing any change, then naturally some people can go maybe every other ear. But we do want to monitor that, and we always, for those that are using technology, we want to reflect those changes into our programming. But it's just recommended that you
kind of put
stay
it in
on
with
top
your
of that.
general.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Now we're talking about audiology awareness. Anything special going on for audiology awareness, or is it just getting the word out?
Just getting the word out, and that, again, our ears are connected to the rest of our body, and so we need to be watching them too. And then also on that protection side of it, always be careful with avoiding loud noise when you can, and not staying in that environment for hours at a time. Our ears fatigue as we go throughout the day. Okay. So a lot of people, you may notice, when you get in the morning into your car, your radio's real loud, and so you'll turn that down, and that's just because being around noise.
And that's a natural
changes.
part.
That's a natural thing that happens. But if that happens repeatedly, like for the population that work in factories and that type of thing, where they're in that noise day after day after day, some of those permanent threshold changes can turn it, or some of the temporary threshold changes can turn into a permanent shift. So you just want to monitor it.
But they sell those little earplugs, little cushiony ones, in the drugstore. And then we've seen even NFL player Drew Brees, when he had his little girl out, he had the cute little baby headphones. Are those recommended for the general populace, or are they just cute little things to have?
No, absolutely. It does cut the decibel level down, and again, it's the amount of noise and then the time that you're in it. Those are the two factors that go hand in hand.
Where would I find some of those cute little ones for the kids?
We can order them at our store. A lot of
places
online. May stock it, right? Everything's online.
But you would be able to help direct.
Absolutely,
Indeed.
absolutely.
Dr. Frazier, thank you so very much, and thank you for watching this LEX18 Digital Conversation. You can find more digital conversations on lex18.com and our Facebook page. Until next time.